Welcome back to Tipping Point. I'm your host, Kara McKinney. For 20 plus years, we were told if Afghanistan falls to the Taliban, that the American homeland would be unsafe. But not only did we have more Islamic terror attacks on our home soil and in Europe during the height of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, but now that we've left and our George Floyd murals left along with us, the Taliban appears to be waging war on the Islamic Republic of Iran instead. What a strange turn of events, at least for some. This appears to be the case given a gunfight between Taliban fighters and Iranian Border Patrol agents that erupted over the weekend on Saturday. Taliban fighters exchanged heavy gunfire with Iranian officials along the shared border, resulting in the deaths of at least 2 Iranian border guards and 1 Taliban fighter. Videos of the clash posted online over the weekend appear to show Iranian forces firing off mortar rounds and Taliban fighters firing back with weapons that were manufactured in the U.S. Other Taliban agents were seen in armored vehicles, which, according to the Associated Press, were likely abandoned by NATO forces. It's unclear who started the fight, however, it comes amidst ongoing tension about the restriction of water flow from the Helmand River into the dry areas of eastern Iran. The Iranian government claims the Taliban is violating a treaty pertaining to water rights signed back in 1973. Iran's president warned Afghan authorities about the treaty earlier this month, but the Taliban allegedly dismissed those concerns in a satirical video that went viral online after it was posted. In response to the latest gunfight, the two who were initially somewhat close after the fall of Kabul back in August of 2021, when the Taliban began selling some of the U.S. equipment they seized to Tehran, while Iran now says it will decisively respond to any border trespassing attempts or military aggression by the Taliban. Well, that's the U.S. foreign policy establishment, or the blob in other words for you. The Biden administration has downplayed the catastrophic fall of Kabul for years now, which got 13 U.S. service members killed when their advanced warnings were ignored and Bagram was emptied of its terrorists. And they failed to provide Republicans in Congress with key information leading up to the fall of Kabul. This brings us to the House Foreign Affairs Committee, which is threatening to hold U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken in contempt for not turning over sensitive information about the fall of Kabul. The committee wants the State Department to provide a fully unredacted version of a descent cable from July 13th of 2021, in which officials employed by the agency reportedly warned that the Taliban could seize Kabul shortly after the United States withdrawal. If the State Department doesn't comply, the committee could bring up contempt for a vote, though the procedure carries no possibility of prosecution on its own. However, a successful contempt vote could go to the Department of Justice, where charges could be brought against Secretary of State Blinken. Join us now to discuss all this and more is United States Air Force veteran and former congressional candidate Sam Peters. Sam, thanks for being here tonight.
Thanks for having me, Kara. It's good to see you.
Great. So do you think Blinken should face some type of Eric Holder-like contempt of Congress treatment over the lack of transparency for the fall of Kabul?
100%. I mean, look, it's Congress's job to oversee the executive branch of government, which, Blinken is part of. This entire administration needs to be monitored. George Washington reminded us hundreds of years ago that, our government should never for a moment be left in the hands of irresponsible action. This administration, from Blinken to Austin Lloyd and Mayorkas and more locally here in the United States, they've all been irresponsible, and he needs to be held accountable. And it's important to remember, you mentioned the contempt of court or the contempt of Congress charge holds no penalties, but can be referred to the Department of Justice. The Congress also has impeachment authority over these cabinet level positions, and we seriously need to be looking at some of those.
We really do, because their lies got people killed, specifically 13 U.S. service members, and of course many civilians as well in Afghanistan. Even those who had helped our nation's forces for many years got many people killed, but especially the 13. They didn't tell them everything that they needed to know. Then they emptied out Bagram Air Base nearby Kabul, and they just did so overnight, releasing thousands of known terrorists. And of course, one of those was an ISIS-K member. They actually had a whole description of the guy, who he was traveling with, what he looked like, everything about him. And then you had U.S. Marines who were there at the Hamid Karzai airport. They had contact. They saw the man. They tried radioing up to higher up, saying, and this was all before Congress earlier this year. One of the Marine veterans did say all of this. He blew the whistle on it. He said they kept making repeated calls saying, we have the guy in our sights, but everything was denied, or it was just the buck was passed, and they never heard back. And then, of course, what happens? A mass explosion.